Hello everyone, welcome back to yet another political episode. So, today we are doing our mid-August prediction for 2028. Still a while away, it is 2025, and today we're just doing a NEWSOM versus VANCE scenario, and what that election scenario would look like in my view. So, without further ado, let's begin. Alright, at 7 o'clock, you'll get a couple states being called, and that is, first off, the state of Vermont for Gavin Newsom. That is no real surprise. The state of Kentucky for J.D. Vance. And the state of Indiana for J.D. Vance. Okay? We'll go ahead and make a projection in South Carolina. J.D. Vance will be the winner of that state. And the state of Florida. J.D. Vance will be the winner of that state. All right, with the map currently looking like 58 for J.D. Vance and Gavin Newsom, 3 electoral votes. We are at the 7:30 hour, and the 7:30 mark of the hour, and we are ready to make projections in 2 out of 3 states, and that is the state of Ohio, J.D. Vance's home state, that will be projected for the vice president, while the state of West Virginia also being projected for J.D. Vice President Vance. North Carolina is labeled too close to call at the moment. All right, you got 79 electoral votes to 3 electoral votes, all going to Gavin Newsom. 3 electoral votes for Newsom, 79 votes for J.D. Vance. Okay, and now this brings us to the 8 o'clock hour. We are ready to make a projection. The state of Maine will be projected to Gavin Newsom. Newsom will win the 1st district, while J.D. Vance will easily carry the 2nd district. The state of New Hampshire is labeled too close to call at the moment. Massachusetts will be called for Gavin Newsom. Rhode Island will be called for Gavin Newsom. Connecticut will be called for Gavin Newsom. New Jersey, although some say it's relatively compatible, will be called for Gavin Newsom. Delaware will be called for Gavin Newsom. Maryland will be called for Gavin Newsom. D.C. will be called for Gavin Newsom. All right, we're going to go ahead and call some J.D. Vance states, including the state of Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. And last but not least, the state of Illinois, the state of Lincoln, will be called for Gavin Newsom. All right, this is your map. So far, J.D. Vance, almost to 200 electoral votes. It's been pretty much precedented that the first to reach 200 electoral votes, usually, not all the time, but usually wins the presidency. We're going to see if this could be an unprecedented change at the moment. But now it's 8:30. We can go ahead and make a projection in the state of Arkansas. Arkansas solidly and surely backing J.D. Vance. Okay? Also, yeah, we forgot to call Virginia. Yes, Virginia would go for Gavin Newsom. That was supposed to be called at 7 o'clock. My bad. But yes, let's go ahead and call the 9 o'clock states. New York, going for Gavin Newsom. Louisiana, J.D. Vance. Iowa, J.D. Vance. Minnesota, too close to call. Wisconsin, too close to call. Michigan, too close to call. North Dakota and South Dakota, J.D. Vance. Nebraska, the 3rd and 1st districts for the vice president, while the 2nd district goes to the governor of California, and of course, no surprise, Nebraska at large, going for J.D. Vance. Okay, we can go ahead and make a projection in Colorado and New Mexico that these 2 states would go to Gavin Newsom. And in Wyoming, J.D. Vance will win. All right, this is quite looking like an intense race, but J.D. Vance is dozens of points ahead of the governor of California. The governor has a lot of catching up to do, and he really needs to look at the blue wall, mainly in places like Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania in order to win. Okay? All right, so we can go ahead and make a projection in two states, Utah and Montana at 10 o'clock going for J.D. Vance. No real surprise there. Okay? We can make a projection at the 11 o'clock hour now that Gavin Newsom will win his home state. And on top of that, Oregon and Washington will follow him. Okay? You also have Idaho being projected as well. Okay, you got two. Now it's getting a little bit more closer. You got 216 for J.D. Vance, 208 for Newsom. Newsom just falling behind by less than 10 electoral votes. If it does look like that itself, we can now make a projection in two states at 12 o'clock, and that is Alaska and Hawaii. That is giving the new numbers 219 to 212. All right. Now, these are the two close to call states, and we will be choosing from the states shortly. So starting off with, let's see here, which one do we want to start off with first? Okay, how about we start with the first ones that have been closed first of all. Let's start off with Georgia. All right, Georgia has been closed for a while, and they should have a winner by now, and we can project that J.D. Vance would be that winner. He will gather the support he needs, and usually it's going to take a very, very bad Republican candidate and a good Democrat candidate to win Georgia, not to mention an unusual year that will be popular to African-American voters. I do not think Gavin Newsom's going to be that candidate yet, but it could be relatively close. All right, North Carolina would also go to J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is nearing the 270 electoral votes needed to win. This is very good for him. Democrats are getting very nervous that they might lose another 4 years to Republican control. All right, in Pennsylvania and New Hampshire, we are ready to make two projections. First off, let's start off with Pennsylvania, the big news of the day. J.D. Vance is elected president of the United States, winning the state of Pennsylvania's 19 electoral votes. This is historic. J.D. Vance will be the first president since George H.W. Bush to succeed his boss, and meaning that he will be the first vice president to become president. The first vice president since George H.W. Bush to become president in the next election. A very historic election. Meanwhile, Gavin Newsom will be projected the winner in New Hampshire. Okay? Coming up next, you have 52 electoral votes that have not yet been counted. We can project that the state of Michigan will go to J.D. Vance. To Gavin Newsom. That is going to be a flip. The first flip is going to be for Democrats. I do believe that, the election results tends to not favor so much the party in power. That does not necessarily mean that the party in power can't win. We saw this in 2012. Obama lost Indiana, and he lost North Carolina, and he lost dozens of counties across the country. And Romney picked up a net worth of counties in the 2012 presidential election. So you could say Republicans gained, but they didn't win, because just because you gain doesn't mean you win. Okay, and that's what we're seeing here. Democrats would relatively gain because they're the opposition party, and they're seen as the party of change at this point. But that doesn't mean that they're going to win, as a lot of people think that could be the case. We can go ahead and make a projection that Minnesota and Wisconsin will all go to Gavin Newsom. All right, you have half of the blue wall, or most of the blue wall, going for Gavin Newsom. And last but not least, you have Nevada and Arizona. Let's go ahead and call Arizona first for J.D. Vance and Nevada for J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is elected President of the United States with 287 electoral votes. Gavin Newsom concedes the election to President-elect Vance, who only obtains, Gavin Newsom in this case, 251 electoral votes. So anyway, what do you guys think in regards to this video? Let me know down below, and as always, I'll see you all in the next political episode.